Hello, everybody. Everybody, hello. Welcome to another episode of Congratulations, Dr. Cornel West and Dr. Melina Abdullah. Before we get started, got a couple of bills to pay, and so we'll do that first. Remember, you can still go to the Cornel West 2024.com website. You can still donate. You can learn about future plans of the Justice for All Party. So go to that website and visit. There's going to be some links that you can sign up to further volunteer. So be on the lookout for that. Subscribe. I am literally 3 subscribers away from 300. I know that doesn't sound like the millions that other podcasts have, but they didn't get to a million unless they cross 300. So I got to cross 300 to get to my ultimate goal. I'm 3 away. We can do this. I know we can do this. I know it. I can feel it in my bones. There's 3 of you out there that are just waiting, just rushing to subscribe. Subscribing literally costs you nothing. And I would greatly appreciate it. Of course, you can always support me on Patreon. Patreon support starts at $2 per month. That's how I keep the little annoying duck off of StreamYard. That is how I pay for my lights that are about to go out. But please consider becoming a Patreon. Support starts at just $2 a month. That's 50 cents a week. So greatly would appreciate that. The Defeat the Duopoly Awards are next week. Guys, I cannot wait for this. It's going to be a fun show. We have awards that will dishonor those that deserve to be dishonored and our quest to destroy the duopoly. So tune in next week at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember the virtual scavenger hunt fundraiser that I'm sponsoring. $20 to attend, February the 1st, 2025. Those who are on my email list will get an email invitation to that. So remember that goes towards me getting way better equipment, another computer, lights, audio board, all the things that I need. And remember, finally, let me take this off. There we go. Finally, it is 84 days until the Justice is Here podcast debuts. I'm looking forward to interviewing Justice for All activists across the country to see what they're up to. That debuts in 84 days from today. And lastly, help us to get 25 likes on this podcast and 15 shares. You can also find it on my Blue Sky, which I keep forgetting to put in the comment section, but that's okay. Tim, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm suffering from a little bit of restless leg syndrome, so if I bounce around a little bit, I do apologize.
Well, I hope you get better soon. I'm not going to promise this is going to be a short show because every time I do, I end up asking like a billion questions. So I want to talk about something a little bit different and kind of explain where I'm going. You all know that have been with me. Oh, and remember to comment. Please comment. We're going to really need your comments tonight. So just remember to comment. If you remember when I first started this show way back in September of 2023. It was called Congratulations to the 47th President of the United States, Dr. Cornel West. And we interviewed all types of people from all across the country, including Tim, talking about why they supported Dr. West. And eventually the election happened. And my plan was, hey, I'm just going to fold up, say I did the best I could, and just go back to regular podcasting. And you all, the public, spoke, all 20 of you, and said, no, we want this show to keep going. And so then I decided, what can I do to keep this show going? Went back and forth, and finally decided I'll do the Justice for Here podcast, and I'll do it in March. What was I going to do until March? I decided, well, I can look at the platform and talk about issues of the West campaign until that day comes. We're not going to do that tonight. Instead, well, we may talk about some of the issues on the platform, but I want to talk about something that's kind of ironic. And this is an unusual subject, but I think it's something that's happening in politics that I hope the Justice for All Party is never guilty of. And that's MAGA syndrome. MAGA syndrome, I'll define it for the audience, is when you're on a team, whether it's Team D or Team Red, and you just excuse all the wrongs that your leadership does. It doesn't matter whether they call for the military to be used against citizens. It doesn't matter whether they're funding genocide in Israel. You have an excuse, and you call those of us that don't want to vote for either one of these sides selfish, when indeed you're the one that's selfish. Because if you weren't selfish, you would think, oh, well, this administration and the Trump soon to be coming in Trump administration are literally the same thing. They both support Israel with no questions asked. They both support the expansion of the military industrial complex. They both support taxes that are not beneficial to regular Americans. So I want to talk about the irony of blue MAGA specifically, because I think blue MAGA is worse than red MAGA. Red MAGA's letting Trump get away with things is because they're not really informed. Blue MAGA, I think, is worse than red MAGA.
Yeah, maybe. It's entirely possible, because it seems like red MAGA is starting to come around to realize that they've seen and said ridiculous things. But blue MAGA is just starting to understand the concept, or maybe they haven't even yet understood the concept, where they're completely blinded to their own problems. Now, I would relate this issue to whataboutisms, which is where you have somebody blames me for something, and I say, well, what about them? And I think that's something that we've been doing for quite some time, that's probably evolved to this later stage, which you're calling mega blue and mega red.
I think, it really upsets me when I put on my Facebook page, hey, the genocide has to stop. And I literally hear people people typing, because I don't hear them, they're typing, saying, that's them over there. That doesn't have anything to do with me. I'm still voting for Harris in this case, because most of my Facebook friends are Democrats. I'm still voting for her because she's a better option than Trump. And I'm like, no, there's a better option than both of them. His name is Dr. Cornel West, and his running mate, Dr. Melina Abdullah.
I mean, I completely concurred with that, but clearly we're out of step with the mainstream America. Largely, I would say that's based upon the way that media has continued to portray this choice between A and B, or between red and blue. Once we could get media to stop portraying things as just an either or duopoly, maybe we'd have a shot at getting people to start recognizing the shortcomings of their own party's stances.
As much as I agree with you, I know cable news is gone. Cable news is just, it's a dying dinosaur. It's on its last leg. They all experienced, except for Fox News for some reason. Fox News was the only one that didn't escape with loss of huge audience amounts. So I think people are starting to turn off of them, but I don't know if that's going to make them change. Because if you look at like conspiracy theories, oh, the election was stolen. I call them blue anons. They want to blame sexism, racism, and I'm like, well, we you can't blame racism. We had Barack Obama, first black president, and you can't blame sexism because, well, Hillary won the popular vote. This comes down to three issues for me: Gaza, immigration, and the economy. But somehow your campaign, which literally raised $1 billion, how do you waste $1 billion like that? How? If Dr. West had, well, he wouldn't take PAC money, but if the campaign had at least $20 million, what more could we have done? The Harris campaign wasted $1 billion with a B and still
I
lost.
thought it was $1.5 billion, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, $1.5 billion. Thank you for the correction. I'm like,
I couldn't spend $500 million if you gave me 3 months. There's no way I could spend $500 million. They did 3 times as much.
Trump campaign, I mean, they spent less than 500 million and won. No, but like no Democrat has a problem with this. No Democrat has any problems with this. I'm like, that's your problem.
Clearly the money's being spent in the wrong places, and clearly you're confused about what money is good for and not good for, and clearly you don't understand the value of money because we still don't have a $15 an hour minimum wage.
Well, she never came out for. I'm like, I mean, no minimum wage plan, $50,000.
Let's go back to 1992. It's the economy, stupid.
Whoever said that, it's always the economy. I don't know.
That was from the Clinton campaign in 1992. It's the economy, stupid.
And it's always the economy. When
always.
Isn't the economy not an issue?
It's always going to be the basic bottom of the barrel. That's your pocketbook. That's what it's going to be. So immigration and bathrooms and whatever else they want to come up with.
Democracy is on the line. Oh my gosh.
Democracy is on the line every single time, and it's the most important election every single election. So
first of all, what democracy are they talking about? We live in an oligarchy. And second, nobody is out here saying, you know what? Sure, I can't afford my mortgage payment. Sure, groceries cost too much. But you know what's more important to me? Democracy. Nobody says that.
No, because when it comes down to, safeguard democracy, no, it's the economy, stupid.
It's always the economy. And it's like, I personally think that they didn't want to win. It's hard for me to sit here and think they wanted to win because they picked the stupidest way to run a campaign. And they could have won it in 2 months, even if Biden did drop out, because they didn't give her enough time. Yeah, they did. She's been vice president for 4 years. Every vice president ideally prepares to run for president. Ideally.
If you're a vice president, it seems like you're one heartbeat away. You should have every plan. Work on every plan. That's all you do.
See, the things we're saying is common sense, and this is why I think they didn't want to win. Because this whole thing about Harris saying, I want to give a $50,000 tax credit for new businesses. That's about the dumbest idea I've ever heard of to boost the economy. You can't, as a person that's starting a business, I can't take a tax credit to to possible investors, which I'm not going to have any, but I can't take a $50,000 credit to a bank and say, hey, I got this $50,000 tax credit, loan me some money. That's not going to happen.
It's not worth 50 cents.
Well, one, it wasn't going to happen anyway. Can we be real about this? All the things that she was promising were never going to happen.
when people talk about how she came up with an agenda for black men, she didn't change anything. She picked and pulled existing programs that are available to the general public.
And
Then
put black on them?
Yep.
No, no, I don't think she never would do. No, mm-mm. She thought about those herself. And this is yeah, this is to me that this is exactly what I think. And I don't ever want the Justice for All Party to do this. When you run for office, at least I can say, well, Trump wanted to win. Well, no, because I think part of me thinks he wanted to lose too. I don't think either campaign wanted to win, but I can look at Dr. West's campaign and say the West Abdullah campaign, they wanted to win because they wanted to make systematic changes that we need. I don't think Trump wanted to win because when you simulate sex on stage, you're not really trying to win. You're just out there just throwing up anything saying, okay.
I'm going to disagree with you. I think Trump wanted to win, if only to stay out of prison.
Well, that's a good point. And of course, he'll pardon himself. Oh, and speaking of prison, Jack Smith dropped all the charges against Donald Trump. Well, that was a good waste of 2 years. I don't know why people can't
It doesn't do anything about convictions, but we don't care about convictions in this country unless it's 3 convictions and one of them was for weed or something.
And then you're going
locked away for forever, so I don't get it.
Exactly. I literally said 3 years ago when Biden got into office and got Merrick Garland for Attorney General.
Attorney General.
Yeah, Attorney General. Why didn't you start that because Trump wasn't even on the radar. You start the investigation then. You don't wait until he declares for office and says, we're going to invest. I'm like, they don't want to win. They don't want to win. They're not serious about winning. They're looking for 2028. They're just not. How did they fool so many people, including third-party voters? And I'm going to say something you specifically, Tuesday, because some of y'all third-party people gathering petitions sold out. Yeah, I said it, by going to vote for Harris because she's the lesser threat. She's still a threat. How? That's who I'm the most disappointed with, is that third-party voter that said, forget it. I'm just going to vote for Harris and hope for the best.
I'm disappointed forever and a day by all the people who say that they support third-party candidates and then don't.
Especially it doesn't make sense.
There are all kinds of ones that say, oh yeah, I'll do it in the voter box. Get the hell out of here. If you're not going to do it on the streets, then you're not serious.
Exactly. And it's like, wait a minute. So you wasted all that time gathering petitions, gathering signatures, talking to people. And you go and vote for somebody that said, and I quote, I want to have the most lethal military on the face of the earth. You're okay with that? I mean, the only good thing that I can say about Trump winning is that Harris didn't win. I said it last week. I'll say it this week. I'm glad she didn't win. I don't care who doesn't like it. I'm happy she didn't win. If she runs again, I'm going to work to make sure she doesn't win again. She's a terrible candidate and with a terrible agenda. Never said anything, never did anything, never wanted to win. She just wanted to take the DNC wanted to take your money. And that's exactly what they did. They raised $1.5 billion, and look what happened. They got all these actors for Harris, white people for Harris, black people for Harris, and you still lost. You had every single advantage, but because you never wanted to win in the first place, you just said, hey, I got to line my pockets somehow.
I think they spent a lot of time lying to people about what the polls were that they were showing, because I'm not sure that many of the polls that they were stating and they were continuously pointing to. For instance, at one point they were suggesting that Florida had become a swing state again, and Florida at no point apparently has ever come close to becoming a swing state again. It was never in danger of being anything but Trump.
They did the
And
same
that's what it
thing
was.
with Texas, which you got to be smoking. What is you smoking? Texas? Texas. Really? Really? No. No, 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 no,
I
no, no, no.
remember Texas as a blue state back when I was a kid.
Ann
Ann
Richards was governor
Richardson.
then. And they
Yep.
haven't had she was like the last Democratic governor of that state, unless
Mm-hmm.
I'm wrong. Yeah.
I think you're right.
Texas, and then she might win Iowa. No, she didn't win Iowa. I think the polls, if this election doesn't teach the vote blue no matter who crowd, don't pay attention to polls. Either I think they always knew they were going to lose. I literally think that there's no way they thought they were going to win. That's why, and I think Biden did this intentionally. Now, hear me out, y'all, and put some in the comment section, please, because now I got to guess I feel a little bit more relaxed. Biden dropping out was not his idea, obviously. People kept, after that first debate he had that was terrible, everyone said drop out. I think he knew he wasn't going to win re-election. So he said, I'll drop out. And to get back at them for making me force me out, I'm going to say I support Harris, force everybody else to support Harris, knowing that she'll lose too because our numbers weren't looking good in the first place. That's what I think happened.
I don't really think they had a choice. I think the vice president is the next person to pull up. I think where they had a choice is where they lied, which was going back to the beginning of the year, where they suggested that Biden was still in good standing in terms of his mental capacity. I would say that Biden hasn't been in good shape to run the country for at least the last year, and therefore
2020 he was doing the same thing.
Yeah, well, so therefore we needed to figure out something to deal with the problem and move away from him. The fact that they had no primaries, or that they messed up the primaries so bad that it was, meaningless. You had Marianne Williamson when they had a primary.
You had Marianne Williamson, Dean Phillips, and waste of time. Knew he wasn't gonna win. Cenk Uygur, but you wasn't born in the United States. I'm not even gonna get on that because I could literally spend an hour like, boy, bye. You wasn't born in. That's one of like the main rules. But those three ran, and I had Frank Lozada on my show. He also ran within the Democratic Party.
But it wasn't. They didn't have very sincere, serious candidates. Marianne Williamson always said, "Oh yeah, no, I'm supporting whoever the
and she did. She supported Harris.
And congratulations, you come right out and you say you're supporting the winner. Well, you're not going to win.
Again, I don't think they wanted to win.
I don't think so either.
Because let's just take the issue of Gaza. The youth vote did not show up this time. They mostly stayed home. And we know why. If all she didn't even have the decency to lie and say, you know what, I'll stop. Like, tell Netanyahu, yeah, I'm going to tell them, I'm going to cut it off. But, when I get in office, it's all bets off. She tried to play this. I want to see, we're working tirelessly for a ceasefire. I'm going to give them all they need. But it's like they tried to play this convoluted game instead of saying what the simple solution would have been is, hey, I'm not giving them any more money. That's the solution, right?
Well, I think that's one of the things that we saw was the full-throated display at the end of the DNC of, I will kill anybody under any circumstances as long as it supports Israel. I mean, that's not the exact words she used, but
no, she said again, she wants the most lethal military. I'm like, ooh.
I mean, all we have to do is look back at our former presidents that talk about investing money, every penny spent towards the military industrial complex being taken away from the poor. That's just what it is.
And who's going to fight these wars? I was going to say certainly not her children. Well, she's a stepmother, so
it's the poor, but the poor aren't signing up anymore.
Good, but then you know what they'll do? Bring back the draft.
Yep.
And this time, women will be eligible.
Well, they're also looking at ways to avoid worrying about the draft. They're like, you know what? We just have proxy wars instead. We make other countries draft their people.
Or using people in prison.
I mean, they already do that for fighting fires.
And don't pay them. Even though they took her to court and said, hey, you've got to let these people go. Oh, no.
And not just don't pay them or don't pay them a fair wage, but once they're released after they've now been trained and are actually some of the better firefighters available,
can't get a job. Why?
Can't get a job.
Because they have a prison record.
They've also got experience fighting fires because of their prison record and the fact that they were put on that work detail. It seems like they're already tested and they have an opportunity for them to get out of prison. It seems like a perfect idea for somebody to come out of prison, go right into the
workforce,
firefighting business.
Like you've got somebody there, they have experience, probably in there for some low-level crime like smoking weed, or they got in a scuffle but nobody was hurt. We're not talking about like the heinous crimes like child pedophilia.
Let's say they went in for some heinous crime. They're still not getting released. Nobody gets released until they've done their time. Right. So the only people who are getting released are people who have done their time. And if they've done their time and they have been trained as a firefighter, why can't they go work as a firefighter? It seems like why are we spending additional money training somebody else to be a firefighter?
When you got the force already trained, it's like they're already trained. All you gotta do is just nope, don't do that. Just give them a $50,000 tax dollar credit. That'll solve nothing.
For the new business that they can't start as soon as they walk out the door.
Nobody can. I'm going to ask for 2 minutes. Do you know how much it costs to start a business? Do you know how much your credit has to be in line to go to a bank and say, hey, I need money? Because self-funding is not a thing. People that self-fund their businesses are called millionaires. Or called celebrities.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't us. Your credit score, I think mine is so ridiculously low. Let me put it like this. It's not 6 and it ain't 5. So I got some improving to do. So I got to do little bit by 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 little bit. A $50,000, that's not going to help. I can't go to the bank and say, hey, I got this $50,000 tax credit. Mm-hmm. No. But again, to me, this is coming from a party that does not want to win. They want to shame people. And this is what I really would like us to talk about. And the reason we're talking about this, people that are watching, is because we don't want the Justice for All party to do these stupid things. We don't think they will, but you know what? Better safe than sorry. Because if we don't point out what they're doing, it's like, you know what? We need to avoid that. We're going to be in the same, well, they could be bought.
Well, here's things that are different about Justice for All as opposed to Kamala Harris and the money train. Justice for All party doesn't have money to pay off all the people
I know that's what I'm saying, but you know, when you get political parties and you get personalities, you're gonna have that. Well, one, you're gonna have trolls, but you might get that. Like I said, I want to avoid the problem before it becomes a problem, and that's why I'm doing this show. And because I couldn't remember what topic we were supposed to be talking about, but that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, Justice for All party. What did the West campaign raise in 18 months? $1.8 million. That's not enough to cover any state, even a very, very red state. But you would think, again, this goes to back to my, they didn't want to win. You have $1 billion. You couldn't get volunteer, you couldn't get door knockers in every state. You just concentrated on 7 states and you still lost.
Lost every one of those states.
Every single last one of them. Trump turned districts in California from blue to red. Why?
It's the economy.
It's always the economy. And another thing I want to get onto, and I know we'll have maybe some disagreements. I am tired, and I hope if the Justice for All Party ever does this, I promise I'm gonna start cussing, and y'all know I don't cuss. Stop making excuses when your party does something stupid. Stop it. If your party does not advocate for a minimum wage of at least $15, don't get into office, have 8 Democrats vote against it, and then sit here and say, we'll bring it back, and you never do. Don't tell the railroad workers, oh, no, you can't strike, and then say, don't go to a auto worker strike for 15 minutes, make a sentence, and then go to $100,000 per plate fundraiser. Don't do that. Don't support, don't condone giving more and more money towards the Ukraine and more money to Israel and more money for all these endless wars, and then just excuse it like you normally do. And I think that's what's making me so angry is the vote blue, no matter who crowd is excusing it, right? It's like, why are you all excusing it? I remember David told you all he was walking around because he has less restless leg syndrome. But why are Democratic voters excusing like things that if Trump did the exact same thing, they would never say, oh, well, that's them over there. They would be in the streets protesting when Trump starts to do this.
I agreed.
And I can't understand it, and I wish somebody that was Democrat would explain this to me. How come when I say, there were children in cages in the Biden administration? Well, who said that? Well, several organizations said that. It's called a fact.
All the people who saw it under the Trump administration are the same people who said it under the Biden administration because they're the ones who saw it and kept watching.
And who built those cages?
Were they built under the Obama administration?
They were built under the Obama administration.
There you go.
But you can't blame Obama for anything if you're black because that's the Messiah. I said what I said. I don't care. You ain't got to like it. I don't care. You don't have to like me.
It's all right. I just watched TYT and they explained that you ain't black if you didn't vote for Kamala because she's so black. In spite of the fact that and they said it's a point that's just made up, and forgive me for going through it. So her father on her birth certificate lists himself as Jamaican as opposed to by race. Her grandmother, if I'm not mistaken, on her father's side, family received reparations from the UK for loss of slaves as the slave owners. So her father's family were the slave owning class in Jamaica. That's what she's represented on the father's side. That's the only black in her is on the father's side. The mother's side, the mother is entirely Indian. The mother and the father separated when she was a child, and she was brought up and lived with the mother. She wasn't brought up black. She was brought up Indian. She may look black because she's Indian, She may be, and I'm not going to say that she's not part of the African diaspora. She absolutely is. But the part of the African diaspora that she is a smaller part, and it doesn't come from the same African American foundational background that many Black Americans are more concerned about. So
You mean people like me?
Yes.
Because see, when you look at me, I'm a foundational Black American.
There you go.
Absolutely positively, I am a foundational Black American. So what does that mean?
And she's clearly not.
Right.
Like,
I had
from
people tell me,
story,
well,
she's not.
you should elect her because she's African American. I'm like, no, she's not. If you want to say she's Jamaican because her father, okay, I guess. But there's a difference between being Jamaican American and being a foundational Black American like Dr. West, like me, like Dr. Abdullah. We're foundational. That means that our ancestors were illegally imprisoned under the chattel slavery system.
Which happened in Jamaica and throughout the West Indies as well.
It did. It absolutely did. But to say she's African American, I'm like, no, she's not.
When we look at her family, and her family actually got paid reparations for the loss of slaves, that's where you make the separation. That's where suddenly you can't claim that you have this history of enslavement, and at the same time that you've taken money for reparations. That's why she would never talk about reparations, because her family already got paid their reparations.
Well, she did, because Al Sharpton, I'm trying to block this comment that's coming up.
Oh, one of his softball comments after she gave him $500,000.
No dollars. I'm like, no, don't pay attention to that comment. I'm trying to get rid of it, and it's not letting me delete it. Dang on it. Yeah. I mean, he asked, well, will you sign it? Well, I'll sign it. And how's it gonna pass?
It's not gonna pass.
Like, who's out here?
And aside from that, that's like saying, and how do you feel about pardons for your son, Joe Biden? Oh,
we're gonna talk about that. Hold on to that thought about pardons. Hold on, because we're gonna talk about it. Nelson, we're gonna talk about the pardons. But Nelson, hello, Nelson. Thank you for checking in twice. Nelson has watched me twice. He watched my previous video where I ranked the Challenge of the Super Friends heroes and villains. Yes, go back and watch that. I think I did pretty good.
I started to watch it.
And then he came on today. So thank you, Nelson. And thank you, Tim, for watching. So in order to verify what Kamala is, let her take a 23andMe test. But she won't. And that's the thing. That's how this
Even
is
if
how
she does, it wouldn't matter.
It wouldn't matter. Like I said, when I'm an ADOS, I'm a African descendant of slavery. I'm also a foundational, I'm both. Like with Obama, y'all know I'm not an Obama fan. But there's no way I could say that he's not Black. His father's from Kenya. No doubt about it, no question about it. He's at least 50% Black. I know some people going to say he identifies. I've never heard him say he's Black, by the way. Never have I heard him say he's Black. I've heard Kamala Harris say she's Black, but I've never heard Obama say. If I'm wrong, just let me know. But he's Black, right?
Because in his story, he's not a descendant of slavery.
He's not. He's absolutely not. But he's not a foundational Black American, nor is he an ADOS. But he's still Black because his father is from Kenya. Right. That's what makes him Black. Kamala, girl, it's the African American term that people like Sharpton were using. I'm like, she's not African American. She's Jamaican Indian American. Well, okay, that's fine. But I think that misrepresentation was to get Black women to vote for them.
Well, and it's interesting because, and that's absolutely why it was, but it's interesting because you see when Trump made such an issue out of it, over him saying, "Well, I thought she was Indian." He's not wrong.
He's not wrong. That people
She
were like,
spent.
how
She
dare
spent.
he? I'm like, she literally, in newspaper clippings, you will see her referred to as an Indian senator, an
Yep.
Indian attorney general. They said, I mean, I could tell by her hair texture. I'm like, oh, she a sister girl, because our hair is unique. Black people's hair is unique. Among every other culture, our hair is distinctively unique. I'm like, oh, well, she got something in there. But they never presented her that way. All of a sudden, Joe Biden, thanks to Jim Clyburn, says, oh, you should pick her as the vice president. So, Trump was not wrong. Is he wrong about other things? Yes.
Yes, all the time.
All the time. But he wasn't wrong about that. I'm like, they literally presented her as Indian American. And
I look at Trump as being like a broken clock. He's right about twice a day.
Twice a day. Like 2 times, I'm like, oh, he's actually right. And hey, no diss to Indian Americans, but that's how they presented her.
Yep.
They never said anything. The first time I heard Kamala say she was black was on the Charlemagne the God show or the Breakfast Club.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally the first time. She never talked. And here's another thing I don't want the Justice for All party to do. Don't do platitudes. Platitudes is going to make me punch somebody in the face, figuratively, not physically. Stop with the Americans are hurting. We have to tell people what we're going to do once we're in office. If that's our end goal, is to get in office. Set out the plan and stop with this. Well, I know grocery prices are too high, so I'm going to set a federal ban on price gouging. Well, most states already have a ban on price gouging. Nelson, it definitely doesn't matter because she proved that she's not African American after she told her. Oh, I'm leaving this up because I'm gonna wait till Tim walks back on the screen. Because it definitely doesn't matter. She proved that she was not African American after she told everybody how she prepared her greens. What? Nasty person. Yes, I said nasty person. Washes their greens in a dang on bathtub. You is trifling. I don't care. You don't have to like me. I don't even care. You are trifling nasty if you sit here and think, gee, I need to clean collard greens. I got this tub. Why don't I put the greens in the tubs are for bathing people and possibly washing clothes, because that's how my mother used to wash clothes.
Right.
That's all tubs are for. They not for, oh, let me put this food in the tub. Yeah, she proved she wasn't. I don't know any person of any race that says, gee, you know what? I'm going to put my greens in the tub. And then her ingredients didn't even make sense. Bacon? Who puts bacon in greens? You either put turkey wings or turkey meat or some type of pork. Well, bacon is pork. But you put like hummus or ham hocks, something like that with some meat on it. Bacon, although it's excellent, one of my favorite foods, you had to put a crap load of bacon in there, right? Yeah, she literally proved she wasn't up there trying. She probably don't wash her chicken either. Don't get me started on washing chicken.
She probably doesn't make callaloo either.
I'm pretty sure that's an Indian food, right?
That would be Jamaican greens.
Oh, Jamaican greens. Okay, see, I'm like, is that Indian food?
It's West Indian greens are called callaloo. It's a different kind of green.
Okay, see what I didn't know. See, thank you for educating me. Now I know. Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm just gonna say anything. I'll just say anything and they'll buy it. And what another thing we better not do, Don't stop blaming sexism when sexism is not the reason you lost. Nobody has a problem with a woman being president. We just didn't want her. We just didn't want her. Or Elizabeth Warren, or Nikki Haley, or
Hillary.
She won't go away. I'm like, chick, sit down somewhere. Just. But
could you go find your husband? He seems to find a way to stay out of the.
Yeah, he comes out every 4 years and says something stupid like it'll be worse under Trump. Like that excuses you giving them money to. Anywho's, we got to talk about Biden pardoning his son, because I said I was going to get back to it.
Yep.
I'm going to give this advice to Dr. West and Dr. Abdullah because I think they both have sons. When you become president, and notice I said when, not if, you bet not, and I mean bet not, lie and say, I'm not going to pardon my son, and then turn around and pardon him.
Agreed. I think it's pretty obvious. If you're going to pardon your child, you should look at a broader policy angle and say, what exactly are we pardoning them from? Is it because of nonviolent drug-related offenses? Let's look at all the marijuana offenses that people are. Why aren't we looking at restorative justice? Getting people out of prison, removing it from their record, expunging it, and then helping them to get into the jobs of medical dispensaries, etc.
Why didn't
These
he?
are things that absolutely could be pushed by the Biden administration right now, and it would make a lot of sense for him to say, you know what? I rethought our criminal justice system when thinking about my son and the need to pardon him so that he doesn't have to go through all of the difficulties. Why don't I also rethink what we've been doing with our marijuana policy? As we're about to be changing the scheduling of it, it makes only obvious sense for us to look into restorative justice and immediately free and exonerate and pardon and every other kind of word that's out there. All the people who have been convicted or are awaiting trial for these nonviolent marijuana offenses.
He doesn't want to. Again, this Democratic Party uses Black people, uses us, abuses us, and we keep going back. And I keep saying it. Stop voting for them. He could literally, like Tim just said, he could literally pardon everybody that got convicted under his 1994 crime bill. He could literally do it. You're the president. People can complain all about presidential pardons all they want, but nobody can overturn a presidential pardon.
Right.
You could literally right now pardon every single person that's sitting in any jail, and you choose not to. You did this because that's your son. At least be honest when he lied the first time. I mean, listen, I don't have a problem with him pardoning his son in general, because if I had a child and my child comes up to pardon, I'm telling you what I'm going to do right now. I'm pardoning him or her. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you I won't and then turn around and do it. And if I wrote a stupid crime bill, I'm not going to say, you know what I should do in addition to that? I'm going to go back and I'm going to pardon all those people that are sitting in jail because of my crime bill, because, quote unquote, I don't want my children living in jungles. He said that with his own mouth.
There's nothing redeeming about Biden.
Nothing. People, oh, he's so nice and so kind. Are y'all serious?
94 crime bill wasn't his only crime bill. He was attached to every crime bill from the 80s onward.
This man hasn't seen a war that he hasn't voted for. Every war we've ever had, he's been in office, he's voted for it.
Somehow, he hasn't figured out that it's the economy, stupid.
Oh, they know it. Like I said, they don't want to win. They want the Republicans in power so they can say, see, look. Now, when they get in power, they don't want to do anything because it's like a back and forth thing. No, it's my turn. No, it's your turn. No, it's my turn. Yes, your turn.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much done with all of those back and forth.
I hope so. I want us to be done with it. It's so ridiculous that people don't understand. You have options. You have options. And the Justice for All Party is the best option. Biden is so absent-minded, he probably pardoned Hunter thinking he was one of the turkey. See, Nelson, I'm not going to.
Thought he was one of the turkeys.
Oh, no, Biden, he's losing. He does have some cognitive concerns.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not totally out of it. Like I said, it's going to be hard for me to believe that he didn't drop out that race and endorse Harris on purpose to say, up yours, Democratic Party, or he was talked into it. Because I'm like, Because unless your name is John Fetterman, who was out here like supporting Biden like that? Who? And I'm talking about the Democrats. They didn't even want him. They're like, oh, we should have somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, there was no question that Biden needed to step down, but there's also no question that they did not have a prepared plan that would provide somebody that was going to actually campaign to win.
But who would that have been, though? Because I wonder. I don't think
they have anybody.
Any of them. I don't think Gavin Newsom would have won. I don't think Gretchen Whitmer, the female governor of Michigan, I don't think she would have won. I don't think the governor of Illinois would have won. I don't think Josh Shapiro would. I can't see anybody, any Democrat, no matter who it was, winning.
Yeah, I got none.
Because they're all for genocide.
Mm-hmm.
Get mad at you for calling it genocide, and then come with well, it would be worse under Trump. Like that makes it so, like it makes what you're committing so less because it could be worse.
Well, the problem, I think, was so obvious when you saw how in the early 2000s we sat there and vilified W. Bush. Rightfully so, not going to argue that. But then you have the people who come out of Bush, like Dick Cheney, who was the vice president, who everybody said was actually running things. Well, he was running things, but you, Kamala Harris, were not running things, and he was running things, and he was apparently creating war and such a warmonger and horrible person that's what we said. You could never possibly support this type of thing. This is a Republican. This is the most horrible thing on the face of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, yeah, he's supporting us.
But the Democratic Party, that didn't just start with her. The Democratic Party literally turned George W. Bush into a hero. I don't know when it happened. I just know it does. And Peter Fabris, I hope I got that right, support Dr. Cornel West exactly. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Exactly. Because that's what we need. We need
hit the like button.
Also that, please hit the like button. But that's our 25 likes and 15 shares campaign that we're still doing, trying to get 25 people to like this. But I think what infuriates me, besides the guys, uncommitted. Uncommitted, if you don't know, was a group of activists in like states like Michigan, Arizona, and some other states where the Muslim population is very high. And they came together during the primaries and said, in these states where uncommitted is a option, and they said, we'll just vote uncommitted because of Biden's support. Well, of course, let me backtrack that. Abandoned Biden, that's what it was called. So Abandoned Biden was a response to those of us that are against genocide saying, look, but we're not voting for you. As long as you support genocide, we will not vote for you. Biden, of course, gets out. The movement is now called Abandon Harris. And this group specifically, them uncommitted and several groups that were several Arab groups were saying, look, we will vote for you if you stop giving money to Israel to bomb Palestine. That's all they had to do. Did they do it? No, because AIPAC money was more important to the Democratic Party than Palestinian lives. And the fact that people will sit here and tell me that them voting for Harris isn't a support of genocide, I got problems with you. Because you can't explain to me how you can vote for somebody that specifically says, I'm going to give Israel whatever they need, meaning she's going to support genocide. You say you're against genocide, or you say, that's them over there. That don't have nothing to do with me. And you get mad at me for calling your hypocrisy out. You can comment anytime you want to.
I'm just agreeing.
It doesn't make sense. And I think when Fatima was on, she said something that was so important. She asked, how bad do you want it? Right? How bad is it that we want things in this country to change? We're on a downward trajectory. It's not looking good for us.
It's pretty clear that the empire is falling apart. And the question is, we either let it fall apart as it appears to be destined to right now, or we try to find a soft way for it to land. And the only soft way for it to land is to democratically find an alternative. If we don't democratically find an alternative to the red and blue parties, we will violently find an alternative to the red and blue parties. And I would much prefer that it's not done that way.
Well, I would say, well, who wants violence? Unfortunately, some people do, but we're not those people. Mm-hmm. We're about truth, justice, and love. Last point of discussion, and again, no show next week because the Defeat the Duopoly Awards will be on next week. Remember to tune in at 6 p.m. because it's going to be a fun show. I'll be solo, but I'm going to have so much fun talking about the nominees and the winners. No surprises, but you'll see. Anyway, I wish I was a better communicator. And the reason I do is I just want to scream to people. They don't like you. The Democrats and Republicans, don't like you. Why do you keep voting for them? Why? You see what they're doing. And you just say, well, they couldn't be as bad as. And again, you can comment whenever you want to.
If only we could have about 2 million of me to go knock on doors of the other 100 people or so per person to say, hey, it doesn't make sense to keep voting red and blue. This is dumb. This is stupid. It's not the economy. It doesn't get us solved. We just getting worse and worse and worse. But since there are so many of me that I can go out with a couple million of me and knock on all the doors to make sure everybody gets the message, then we might have a chance. But without 2 million of me or a lot of money that comes up with the equivalent.
What about 1 million of me?
That's what I'm saying. The equivalent. I'm good with the equivalent. But if we can't get that many people who are going to volunteer to literally be knocking on doors or making phone calls, etc., then the other alternative is money. It's either time or money. And time means numerous people multiplied by the amount of time that they invest.
Yep. And Nelson, you said what is so disgusting is how much money was raised, $1.5 billion by the Democratic Party, and there's still so much homelessness and need for universal health care. I will be talking about that Tuesday because, as you all know, the CEO of United was shot down.
Mm-hmm.
And I will be talking about that Tuesday. So tune in Tuesday for that show. But
Imagine if they had spent $1 billion towards fighting homelessness. Of the $1.5 billion, just said, you know what? We decided that this is a problem. Spend $1 billion on fighting homelessness as part of your campaign.
and look, we're not saying don't raise money. We're not
Right.
saying don't raise it.
Raise the money, but then use it for something productive. And then because you used it for something productive, get the earned media that you get because you did something productive with it to help you win your campaign. Stop paying people $500,000 so that you can get a softball interview on MSNBC.
It is just disgusting. I wish people would wake up. And I don't know. I know that's what the Justice for All Party is going to work. We have to wake people up. We have to. We have no choice. Because if we just sit by and do nothing, it's going to get far, far, far worse. And I know people say, how do you know things are going to be so bad under Trump and not better under Biden? It doesn't matter anymore because they're the same. And all of the politics girls and Pod Save America podcasts and all the TYT and all these Democratic supporting leaning podcasts, stop listening to them. You know, we need what we're doing now is not working. And until you get that, you America, we can't do it. It's going to get worse. It's going to be you on the street because your mortgage is too high, or you're in a house, but there's no heat because your heating bill is like mine was $589. Yeah, I have to figure, where am I going to come up with that? Don't know. I mean, it's going to happen because it has to happen, right? But I'm not the only one in that position, right? Should there be a point where utilities are even terminated? No. But good luck getting that past the two-party system that just lines its pockets. You know,
We
ultimately,
might not have so many of those difficulties if we were paying for everybody's health care.
exactly. If we were
When we're
paying a
looking at
living
somebody's health
wage, we
care and
wouldn't
you're like,
have. Yeah, we
somebody's
wouldn't have.
paying for frostbite because we don't bother to heat that person's home is going to cost a lot more than just paying for that person's heat.
It is disgusting. Tim, finally, thank you for coming on here. Can people find you on social media?
People can find me at Timothy J. Wolter on Facebook and probably Instagram. They can find me at Justice for All Florida on Instagram and probably soon to be Facebook and TikTok.
Now TikTok's going away.
Soon to be banned.
Yeah, that's our problem. That's how the Chinese are going to take us over, through social media.
But generally, the best way to find me is just get involved with the Justice for All Party.
Remember, everybody, there are 84 days to go until the Justice is Here podcast debuts. We will exclusively be talking about the Justice for All Party, having different states on, talking about what they're doing. We're a couple months away from that. Matter of fact, again, we're 84 days away from that. Can you believe it? Remember to subscribe. I literally need 3 more subscribers to hit that 300 mark. My birthday is in January. I would love nothing more than to have 300 subscribers by the time January 4th comes. That's my birth date. Don't have me crying on my birthday. Don't do that. Just go ahead. 3 of you. Of course, I want more, but at least 3 of you that are watching this show now.
Hit up your mom, hit up your daughter, hit
your
up your son,
daughter,
hit up your cousin, hit up your nephew, hit up
if
your
you got
niece,
several Facebook,
hit up your neighbor.
If you got several Gmail accounts, I'm not telling you to like them under those, but I'm not saying I'm going to turn them down either. Please remember to support me on Patreon. Join me on Tuesday's show, where I will definitely be taking a deep dive into the whole murder attempt. Well, not murder attempt. It was successful, unfortunately. The murder of the United Healthcare CEO, the bigger discussion about Medicare for all. Thank you. I'm going to take us down. I'm going to play the outro. Thank you for this show. I know it wasn't a topic because I usually do topics, but I couldn't remember what tonight's topic was. And so I just said, I'm just going to talk about stuff that I don't want to see the Justice for All Party do. So I'm just going to take you down, Tim. Thank you all for watching, and have a good evening, and I'll see you Tuesday.